agree. It's kind of a sensitive thing at our age.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's proper term for it. That's valid.
Robert.
That's without a second, but if it had a second and it fails. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 5 Alpha and 5 Bravo.
Do we have a second? John Barry, second. All in favor? Aye.
But after that, just a real quick question. Did the landscape committee approve its own minutes?
They do.
Okay, so all we're doing is accepting them as
Yes.
approved. Okay.
Yes. And the only reason that they come to you, if there's people from this committee, more than one, then they have to go there. And then same as if there's more than one board member at your meeting, then that also, your minutes also have to go to the board for approval.
Sunshine stuff. Yeah, sunshine is great. All right, let's move on to 6A, the district financial report. The unassigned does not mean unencumbered, right?
Correct.
Correct.
This is March.
Oh, maybe something to just double check.
I just did April, so it got overwritten anyway.
Okay, so any questions on anything within here? Within budget?
Yep, we're doing good. I mean, we're about 2/3 through the year, and you got a third of your budget out, so yeah, we're right on par.
Okay.
The outlay for the admin building construction,
Yep.
are we going to pay that this fiscal year?
Not if we don't extend it. We did talk about that during the budget meeting the last time that and I did talk to Stephen. I'll get into that when we talk about the budget stuff. But I was on the had a call for an hour with Stephen earlier, just like 1 hour ago, actually, to go over a bunch of the budget stuff. So yeah, if we don't extend it this year, it would technically carry forward. But you guys had talked about putting it in for next year and then deducting it again on bottom because then it offsets and you're not actually getting assessed for it. And that's what you choose. I don't have your budget set up like that now. I wanted to wait until we talked, but that would be because the admin building is not going to be completed until hopefully April of 26. That and our year ends in September of 25. I don't expect that to get it started this year. I believe what you've already put in should be enough for all we're going to need from this year.
Well, I saw that you didn't have a line of the 2026 budget. You didn't have a line item for the, it was blank.
Right.
That
And that's why I just said we were going to talk about. I wanted to talk about that today.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to talk about that today. So that'll come later.
Let's hold that. I have to go. All right. Did you have a question?
It's all, it's too good. Large report.
Well, I would hope so. We're not the financials. So. Oh no, not here. But yours shows it. Each of the individual, yeah, the subcommittees each have theirs. Like there was a carry forward for safety and security. There's carry forward for landscape, and then there was actually a deficit on funds. So
Thank you.
that actually earned an M, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah. So anyway, all right. So that's it for my financials.
All right. Any other questions? Patricia? Kevin? No? Okay. All right, let's move on to Mr. Hedges. So walk us through this, Ed. Yeah, we'll just change them.
Yeah, no.
That works.
Once a month would be awesome.
Could I just ask a clarification? Early on, somebody said unassigned does not mean unencumbered. Somebody explain what that means. Is that it? Things are encumbered, meaning they are.
Encumbered means that I have a purchase order out there. We have an intended purchase. Like if you look at
Okay.
on the
3748 both. That we're in their bid. 36 is not, we're waiting for wet season to be able to do the planting. And there's some small amount of rest of us, about 17,750. There's a PO out there right now for 17,750 to do final stuff before we put the plants down. I don't know some of the drainage stuff with the lower pond level. The pipes have broke a little into the pond because there's nothing supporting them underneath, so some of that stuff has to be repaired.
Can I ask you still a question?
None of your questions are showing up.
No,
On pond 47 with the low lake level, right? And then you have a bank, which I assume is where the littorals are going to go in. Where does the 20-foot LME start?
I don't know the answer to that. All I know is no trees had to be ripped out or harvested. I do not know what. I mean, there is a drawing with the LMEs on it, but it's not to the level you're going to say it's within 6 inches of where it actually is. But there, yeah, you can see it on the chart. What is it, the county? I think it's Lima. Lima has it in there.
Thank you.
Okay. The formal bid for pond maintenance is out on the street right now. It's in the quiet period. And we are supposedly by Friday of next week going to have the 2 ITQs for the conservation area and their area here in Commons. So the projection right now is in June. You guys will have a recommendation on the formal bid, and in July you will have a recommendation for the other 2 ITQs. So that it would then go to the following meeting for board approval. So that's the current plan. I don't know how it will be in summer. You might skip a meeting and cause a little bit because not having a quorum, but we'll see. But that's the current plan. And it's the new contracts do not have to be in place. The new vendor has to be there October 1st. So even if you 3-month delay or 30-day delay, not 3 months, 30-day delay, we should be in good shape. That's a minor thing. The handicap, I've been looking at that with the Bauer to this. Chelsea's told me to come up with what we think it is. I've looked on the internet for stuff. I don't think it's going to be as much as I thought it was going to be. And I'm looking at do we need to do, I don't know the hours we put in, but I would think you would want something that has a lock on it so in case there was a problem, that let's just say someone fell and broke something and they had to get in there with some type of equipment. At Bauer, you would have to come down to allow that. I'm looking at making them remove the ones removable. I would think from a safety standpoint, you should.
So, is that a done deal? I thought we left it with where we were going to get some financial information as it related to having this possibly done.
No, it's not that deal. I'm putting together a proposal and a recommendation that would then come back to you guys.
I think there's still some other conditions that have to be met too, so it's not like it's just let the powder up. You can
Right. Well, there's been some concerns expressed by residents, and I think just want to make sure we discuss it before we just go and assume that we're doing this.
But we did get permit approval,
Yes,
but that doesn't,
we agreed to move down that far and find out what the cost would be associated with it, but from there, we have the right to say we're not going to make that change.
You have,
we have the approval to make the change to the at this point. So, but there are some conditions that need to be met before that can happen.
the board here will
how are you soliciting, how are you trying to find these other, just word of mouth?
Yeah, it's word of mouth. I would say we can do a better job.
Well, I thought, and I see Perry here, perhaps the PPCA's Volunteer Recognition Committee might get an expanded role. I mean, that's up to that board, but them to be able to keep the list of where volunteers are needed and help solicit them, just a thought. So that's up to Perry. What's wrong with that?
And I usually don't get excited about it when you know, we might have 30, 94, and now we're down to 32 members of the whole group. You know, and some of the other subcommittees, you know, could use more too. But we can do our job with this number. It's just that everyone has to do a little more. I presented this stormwater system at president's meeting this morning. It's just so they understood within the HOAs and COAs and homeowners what each of their responsibility was. I went through this with the green at the top, the storm water, the storm system drains and piping from there being the responsibility of CDD, Gateway CDD. Literally the bubblers coming down are maintenance by either the homeowner association, the COA, or the homeowner. Every individual declaration within is different. Some of the HOAs have an into declaration that they're responsible for that, and some of them do not. If they do not, then it's the homeowners. So I covered that with them. The green at the pond level is maintained by CDD. It's in that easement into the pond. And then the secondary drains across the back of the homes is the responsibility of the HOA or the COA. Less than 15 inches, they're responsible to maintain them. So we went through this and there was no questions. I don't know if they were shocked that was their responsibility and they didn't. You know how that is. Deborah, the president of the country, asked me to do this because they actually have a reserve for the secondary drains in Prado and Pistoia. They have a reserve in there, and they had a bid, a proposal to clean the secondary drains for $64,000. And I told them that what I do in the bid, like I talked about, because I am the president of that COA, is we just fix the problems when they occur, when they get plugged up, we fix that. We don't do what you would call preventative cleaning in the secondary drains. Well, it's not CDDs, okay? That's called out specifically because the pipes are 15 inches or less are not CDD's responsibility.
And they're not under easement. Yep, we don't do anything on private property.
And I don't know why, Ed, my guess is that when they built all the infrastructure with the street drains when it was first put in, it was part of the CDD bond and all that other kind of stuff. That's my guess. But they've never been part of CDD to maintain those secondary drains. And then in the declaration at the HOA level or the COA level, the declaration was all COAs would do the secondary drains. It's based on the 15 inches of the pipe. I can see Prado documents. Prado and Pistoia, I think one of them is about 15, let's just say about
a little less than 40 pages, which has every pipe, but they're a newer one. If you went to Avila, where I live, one of the older communities, we wouldn't be able to find those drawings.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the drawings even exist, or they might exist in that room.
You're crossing private property, CDD road, private property golf course to get to the pond. I don't, the ownership and responsibility just seems really convoluted.
I tell you, since I've been here, which, I don't know, 17 years, 2 secondary drains have been cleaned.
I'm just trying to understand.
And if you look at some of at the backs of the homes, that secondary drain is a concrete pillar box that's probably almost 10 inches off the ground. I don't know how the water would ever get into it. It'd have to really be a flood. Yeah. Some homes do not have them. Every home does not have a secondary drain behind it. Some do, some don't.
About every third house has one on yours.
Well, but they're all connected. What I mean is, but I'm talking about, there's no secondary drains behind any of the homes in some of the stretch of homes. All right?
Question for you. No preventative cleaning gonna be done on the 15-inch pipes, right? We don't keep track.
CDD does not do any preventative maintenance, or we don't maintain those less than 15-inch pipes. And the HOA could do, the HOA or COA could do preventative if they want.
But we do preventative on
The street drains and all the drains.
All right. Thank you. The other question I have, everyone uses the term littoral, and you look it up in the dictionary.
Plants on the pond bank.
It doesn't mean plants, it just means the banks.
Littoral
the
plantings?
Shore. I mean,
Yeah.
is there, anyway, just
That's
curious.
It's called a lot of things by homeowners that hate the plants on the bank, they call them weeds.
Yeah. But I didn't think littoral was referred to the landscape.
Generally, just for our purposes, when we talk about littorals, it's the plantings on the pond bank. That's what it is.
Okay.
Or the area where the plantings are.
Which change.
In the water.
Okay.
In the water.
The static stuff in the water.
All right,
In
does
the
anybody
water.
have any other questions for Doug? Thank you for that, Doug. Okay, so what I noticed was, these reports were just pulled from the Board of Supervisors report that I gave to Georgia.
That's right, because we didn't get anything.
Oh, okay. All right, landscaping, John, do you have anything?
Nothing other than what you've written here.
Okay.
I have not been to the meeting yet in March. Now we cancel all meetings till
October.
October.
Uh-huh.
So he gave me a similar update just in an email, which is just the same information.
Okay.
So I'm not even sure what he's talking about at the front, what he's gonna do, but he said the front's gonna look great.
Okay, so this is where, do we trust Mark? Yes.
I do.
I have
Okay,
a question.
yes.
So, are we gonna do plantings on Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress and do additional landscaping before we work on the lighting system for the streetlights? Why
Absolutely.
would we do that?
Streetlight's 2 years away.
Well, it shouldn't be impacted by the,
Well, the lighting is.
I hate to put plantings in the ground, and then when the new street lighting and conduit and wires go in, we dig it all up.
But they bore.
understandable.
They
They go under.
They bore, except for where the actual poles go. That's the only place that they dig. Otherwise, everything is
But the
underground.
lights are going to be between the sidewalk and the curb. And there really aren't any plantings between the sidewalk
Other
and the
than
curbs.
Right.
Other than
You just have
grass.
sod.
Okay.
that'll be something we'll have to have a chat about.
Pick them up, you can have them.
Well, I'm just concerned because now we're not gonna have a landscape subcommittee meeting until September.
Well, Mark had said that if one was needed, they would call it.
October.
Yeah.
October.
All right, any other questions? There you go. All right.
Can I just comment on landscaping, just to cite a name,
that seeing Bruce Platt out there working his butt off the last couple of weeks, doing a whole lot on your landscaping, so just shout out to Bruce for what
Yeah. He's a hard working guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So is Mark.
Yeah.
Yes, both of them are. You got a great committee.
And Kathy's wife too. She's also with him right along. Yeah. All right, Ed, do you want to cover the safety and security update? Is there anything?
They've completed the, the two paving of Ravenna and Aviano. We're looking at Pelican for next year, so they'll be getting bids for that for the 26 budget. They recommended, moving ahead with Florida Power and Light proposal, which we have on the agenda here. Those were working through the budget.
Well, you said there was gonna be a lease on that, in the president's meeting, or talking about a lease for that program, but
Oh,
no
rental, I think it's,
rental, but
Well-
no, having to put capital up as well?
yeah, he'll go through all of that, so we'll get more clarity on that. But yes, there, to my understanding, there is a monthly payment that, yeah. All right, any other questions?
Just to know that they are also looking at those speed indicators. And Viviana is an area that they're looking at, also trying to analyze what the data is that they're getting back from both the police and these speed indicators, and trying to do some safety articles to indicate that people are running stop signs and bicyclists don't seem to think that they're part of the system, but
Yeah.
they are looking at that.
By the time we found all the pieces and parts, or acquired all the pieces and parts to put them out in the field,
Right.
then Rich and I went and put them out in the field, and then the modems wouldn't work and
Right.
communicate, so now they gotta send them in to have the modems fixed, so it's,
Well, you're driving Rich crazy because he is so keen on how to get them fixed,
yeah.
but he's really on top of that.
That's good.
So the other thing, just if you haven't heard, is we were informed that the gate technology that we use is now obsolete. We won't be able to, in a few months, we won't be able to get parts for it because the new technology mechanisms are not compatible with the existing parts, most of the existing parts anyway. So they're going to be looking at a replacement for the gate arms and that with the new technology. So that'll be in the 26 budget year.
Did you have something?
I do. So have the post orders been acknowledged by all the workers in the guardhouse? Because I saw a broken pipe when I was out walking the dog. And I went up to the guardhouse and told them about where the broken pipe was. And I said, do you have somebody you can call? And he had no idea who to call, who to contact. He said he would tell his supervisor.
And that's usually what the.
I don't know where that is. I would recommend you just reach out to Jennifer and find out, the chair of the committee, because that's a detail that I don't know.
Can you loop me in on those two? Because I talk pretty regularly with the district supervisor for Weiser that oversees the supervisor and the staff at the gatehouse. It's been it's a few times a week we're sending stuff over. This is wrong, this happened, can you train on this? So if you see things like that, please let me know.
Okay.
You're gonna be sorry you asked her.
I know.
Is that irrigation?
There was an irrigation sprinkler that was broken. It was
I
shooting up out of the ground as high as a palm tree.
I know that they've had some turnover in the gatehouse, and they've changed some of their training methods, so we're trying to keep working to make sure that the training that the new guards get is good and complete and as can be. So if we're missing things, that's good for me to know, because I can let him know, and then they'll add that into their training.
Next question I have.
Yes.
So now that we've identified obsolete equipment, what's our plan?
They are going to work with the new public works director to get estimates and bids to replace the gate technology. It's forthcoming.
Forthcoming.
Put the CERT team there and they could just man the booth.
Oh, yeah, right, forever and ever, huh?
Never, never.
Did that answer your question, Wilma?
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, let's move on.
Can I ask Laura maybe one, I just thought of something, I don't know if it's safe to. So back gate and emergencies,
Yep.
just a real quick, there is a protocol for having that, when and how that gate is open. Once that gate is open and we have volunteers inside the gate, that should this ever happen, who are guiding traffic, they do not need to be under the gateway liability plan
If
because
they're-
they're not.
Well, I don't remember what we decided with the people for PPERT, are they under it?
Well, PPERT,
They're under,
they go to the front gate, but they become CERT because they're under your
Yeah.
DNO, not under the PCA's DNO when they're on the front gate. The question is if they're at the back, and that's primarily because they're in the gatehouse.
yeah,
There is no gatehouse, there is nothing at the back gate except for them to stand with,
but it is still,
And I doubt it's
it
gonna
is
happen.
still our property, so I guess it's better to err on the side of caution. I'm sure that it's best if we actually know who they are,
okay.
so that they're
So
included
if
in
we're
there.
gonna put big if,
Yeah,
big if.
because it is still district property, and they still
Even
are,
inside the gate?
even if they're direct, oh yeah.
Right. So if you,
Even if they're, because if they're directing traffic
Right,
and
right.
it's our asset that.
we're hoping nobody would come in there, but just so that everybody understands, when there is an emergency and that back gate is open, it is open. And nobody at this point is manning that area. So that is something that PERT is gonna look at. Should it man it? How's it gonna man it? It's pretty hot, and I mean, the day after a hurricane, it's pretty miserable to be standing outside and with no shelter at all. So, but the reality is that ingress is wide open. It's not a great road to travel down, but it is.
Well, it's a lot better than it was before.
Oh, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
was dodging potholes
But you
before,
can't
now
come
at least
in
you
and
can
out
drive
at the
down
same
it.
time. I mean,
Yeah.
if traffic's gonna go there, somebody needs to be out of gateway saying, you can't come in because I got another one coming out.
Right,
So
you
you're gonna
need
have to-
radios.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's something PERT's looking at the moment.
And we have asked repeatedly, and I just would like to make sure it's on record, that we don't have access to the clicker to
Correct.
open it ourselves.
That was a condition of the county for us to put the road in. That is not our stipulation. That was one of the things we had to agree to in order to even pave the road and put the fence up.
And I was a big advocate for getting it, but now that I've heard all the rationale, I don't think we want it because of the liabilities that are assumed. And if the power goes down, we got a closed gate and we can't get it open.
Yeah, I just wanted it on, want it in our meeting minutes.
Again, yeah. That was a stipulation of the county.
Okay, good, thank you for that
I
clarity.
did get a copy of the procedure for when that gate will be opened, and PPAC has a voice in when we will ask the
Yeah, say, it's,
to open it up. And the
Chelsea.
Safety and Security Subcommittee can also chime in, so we get to say when the gate gets opened up.
We
So
get
we
a
should
say
think
in
about
it.
that.
A say, not D
Yeah,
say.
we don't get
Yeah.
D
It's
say.
ultimately our decision, but yeah, it's just,
It's
you
a-
can request it.
it's a three-person
Yes.
process. I mean, they have to agree. It's
Yeah.
Chelsea, Chairman of Safety, because you got it, which I really appreciate, haven't gotten that from you, Patricia. But it's Chelsea, now Jennifer, and myself as chairman, assumed chairman of PERT. So as you suggested, I did make that list of the three, got all their contact information, and gave it to all three of them. So that was great that you helped with that.
All right, Marty,
Why don't we have a cart path or a bike path that leads over to Gateway to make the parks more accessible?
We don't want
That's a
to
really good question. Because you guys never wanted to come over here before, so.
well, we didn't.
Well, now I'm paying for it.
Not yet,
I will take a note.
not yet,
You will be in October.
maybe.
I'll come over and see you when I get my pool pass.
yeah. Okay,
A question about the street paving in Aviano and Ravenna. I wonder what the feedback was that was mixed. Did anybody get any
I
word?
actually did this morning ask for feedback from the President's Council, and the feedback was that there was some equipment maintenance issues, and so the Aviano side was delayed like a day and a half, and the communication wasn't coming out from the CDD on this is what's going on. So people were going, where do I park? When do I get access? So it was,
I think there was a breakdown between the vendor and us as well. We didn't realize that they weren't working until we started hearing things saying, why are the cones still up? And we're like, why are the what?
yeah.
So it was a very large communication breakdown on all sides.
But on the plus side, everybody's very happy with the end result and said that they're very glad that it's over. So, okay.
The roads are very nice.
Mm-hmm.
However,
the
communication was less than optimum because at our last PPAC meeting, I asked about the traffic and where we're going to have to locate
where people would
where
park.
we're going to park.
Yeah.
And I was told that the traffic wouldn't be interrupted because they'd only do one side of the street at a time.
And was that not accurate?
That was not accurate.
That's what
They
we found out
closed
as
the
well.
entire street
Yeah.
for a day.
It seemed that's not what that's what I said, we were not communicated to appropriately, which meant that we could not communicate to you appropriately, so it was a very large communication breakdown all the way around, so.
But it's all done now.
It's done now, yes.
All right.
And it won't happen again.
Can't promise that, we'll do our
Well,
best.
it'll be something
We'll do
different
our
next
best to
time.
make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Well,
I can't
next year
promise
is
it.
Pelican Preserve Boulevard, which is the main thoroughfare.
That could be an
so-
interesting one.
You got a little wider street there, so, we
We're
got
just
some
gonna
more
route everybody
options.
through the emergency exit. during construction.
Okay, let's bring it back,
Okay.
guys.
Ed personally agreed to shuttle everyone to
Yeah.
and from, so, yeah.
Okay, let's move along now. Let's go to the item 8A, which is the FPL streetlight conversion presentation. We have a guest speaker here. Come up and introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon. Eric Culling, Florida Power and Light LED Lighting Solutions. I want to thank PPAC for allowing me to be here this afternoon and present to you option for replacement of street lighting.
You just let me know what you want me to show.
All right. Did you want to give any background at all, or?
They kind of know already. We've
Okay.
been talking about it for a
Yeah,
while.
does anybody
Yeah.
have any
Or
questions on the
you
why
might
of
because you're
this?
new, but,
No, I understand. I went to the meeting where he made his presentation, so I got up to speed on that. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think everybody else is aware.
Of course, I have a question.
Marty likes to ask a lot of questions.
We like that.
So have we reached out to the community in any way about the aesthetics of the streetlight, or have we only talked about this in committee? Because we did this with our monument painting, and then once we painted the monuments, nobody liked the colors.
That's not true. That's not true. You're gonna listen to the native people and then go just join them. There were many, many people that commented
Oh, yeah.
favorably on those colors.
And they were taken to your
Right.
committee inside of Pelican, approved the colors, so that the architecture committee approved the colors.
So have we reached out to the community with regard to the street?
Don't even try that.
We have.
You'll never get it.
we
What
have-
are you after, Marty?
Okay,
I'm sorry, that one just irritates me because people want to always go out and ask consensus of a community. What the hell is consensus? And just, you guys got to make sure decisions. That's, you're elected to lead. Make the decision.
Point taken, point taken. Ed, did you have something?
The safety and security created a sub-team to work on the design. They selected an architectural style, decorative architectural style, similar to, within the constraints that Florida Power and Light has available. Similar to the lights that somewhat similar to the lights that we have now. We've communicated that to the board, PPCA board, and shared that information with them. They've been aware of it. It's been talked a little bit at some of the President's Council meetings, but we reached out specifically to, is it Ravenna? No, not Ravenna.
Ravenna Stone.
The ones that are actually addressed to Pelican. I forget what the name of the sub.
Vincenza.
Vincenza, that actually face Pelican Boulevard, and went through some of the issues with them, got some of their concerns. We went through a couple design iterations on adjustments to that last part of below the bridge where the houses are closer to the property to do things. So I think the board's been aware of it. We haven't done a massive presentation to the community,
But and the point, Marty, I'm trying to make is you're never going to make everybody happy. You know that. If you're going to make a presentation to the community, I think to some way that will address Marty's concern. At least the people know. But I've had a lot of people come forward with, they like the monuments. They didn't at first. Now they like them. Some people still don't.
I'm curious to know, what was the PPCA board told? Were they just informed that we're looking into this, or what? What did they get told?
and the style of, they were provided the style of the lights that we were going with.
All right, let's return it to Eric.
I'm sorry. Good.
So what I kind of want to go through here in the presentation is it'll give a scope of the roadways that are being addressed. We'll look at the cost structure, and then we can kind of open it up to questions for you. What I've done here is highlight, and I think as we've talked, it's going to be the main boulevard coming off on the side road over into Prado, extending all the way down to the end as I've shown. And then I cannot ever remember that little offshoot there to up on the. It is Vicenza, okay.
Yeah.
I thought as we were talking, or you've been talking, I recognized that. So this is the overall scope of the lighting that would be currently owned and removed with new FPL infrastructure, including underground, put in place.
So it is underground wiring going to be happening?
That is correct, yes. And for clarification on that, it probably would be all directional bore. We do have the option of doing rapid trenching in grass. Our contractors for the overall Gateway Services project that's happening, they have selected to do directional bore. It's easier for them. Minimal disruption.
It's been working out good for us so far, for the most part, yeah.
And so just to clarify, why aren't you going into the neighborhoods?
The neighborhoods are existing Florida Power. They are carriage lights. They're already Florida Power and Light lights that are maintained by Florida Power and Light,
Okay.
and PPAC pays the electric bill.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. That question was asked me today at the President's Council, and I kind of looked like.
The plan is to replace the district-owned streetlights.
Okay.
And
Well, wait a minute, who owns them in the neighborhood?
FPL.
Oh, they own.
Though that is the same tariff rate program that we're talking about replacing on the main boulevard with that tariff-based
We
program.
would just all then be under the same.
That is correct.
My
And-
street on Brunel Drive, it's all FP&L.
Yeah, I think most of the neighborhoods are.
They are,
Yeah.
that's correct.
It's the main stuff that's.
anything that isn't, any lights on anything that isn't green are already FPL lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will make it easy now, we know when it's broken, call FPL.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. One of the, when we looked at it, you know, they did an illumination plan for this. A lot of the neighborhoods really don't conform to current standard roadway lighting. They're just more, just general illuminants for kind of the neighborhood, and they placed them next to the transformers.
Yes.
You know, so they really don't. And even the boulevards have very erratic lighting patterns as you drive down them. And depending on the vintage, you have different lighting patterns. So this, with the illumination plan that they did, basically will have a very consistent lighting of all the boulevards. And they'll be staggered one side, then alternating sides of the road through all the boulevards. Right now, some of them are staggered and some of them are side by side, I guess, on each.
And
each side of the
you've
road.
looked at all of this and you concur?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
we've gone back and forth numerous times.
Yes.
And then who owns the lights in the town center?
Townsend,
Town
we did a
center.
association.
They own the lights.
Yes.
Yes.
So is this something where we could partner to have those updated too?
I don't know, I just asked the question, Harry.
The problem, the issue we run into is, in that Jennifer started talking to somebody at FPL at one time, most of the lights within the town center are not on the roads. They're on the sidewalks and in the open common areas, when you get into a different type of lighting, and they're all fed off of the existing meters, and there isn't a common FPL electric source really that would make it very easy to convert those. So, I mean, around the pool, there's probably 10 or 12 lights around the pool that good and stuff, so.
I'll make that question pretty easy. Is our main qualification is, do we have bucket truck access easily? So we can do parking lot, for example, but it sounds like throughout the property, there's areas that we wouldn't have easy bucket truck access. And so we wouldn't be able to in those situations.
Just a question.
Yeah, it's a good question, because we want to make sure where we can, we're syncing up with PPCA too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can prevent issues with the irrigation system while you're boring?
So,
Not that boring. Go ahead.
yeah, what we'd want to work with the community on is if there is an irrigation company that you work with, or if there's a volunteer committee, doing the best we can to try to have that system maybe turned on and flagged. Obviously, standard locates for utilities are not going to be marked by, or those private facilities won't be marked. What I will say is our contractors do typically carry on the truck some irrigation repair. It does happen. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
But they do carry on the truck and are able to make those repairs, hopefully right then.
And the directional bore is probably less evasive than
Oh,
the
absolutely.
trench, so.
Yeah, yeah.
If they bore it, you'll
Yeah,
hopefully have less encounters.
to clarify, the conduit that we're putting in is 2-inch conduit. You wanna pop to the next one? So I know aesthetics kind of came up here. This is actually the aesthetic that we've been looking at. This is Welland Park in the Venice area. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the large Welland Park development, but that's the exact pole and fixture combination.
What's the pole material, Gary?
Concrete.
It is concrete.
It is absolutely concrete, yeah.
Black.
Black concrete?
Yes, that's
Because
correct.
I did hear some pushback on that word.
Now, will that fade to a gray or weather?
There is a coating on it from the manufacturer. It will have a very long lifetime. I think you will see some fading over time. What I can say is that it will not fade, as you've probably experienced with some of the older fiberglass poles that are around the communities now. There's been a lot of updates from the manufacturers on fiberglass, for example. I know that's been a challenge.
And just to put you, is that round or square?
It's actually a decorative tapered, fluted, I guess you would call it. There is a decorative nature to it.
But it's an octagonal kind of thing?
That's correct, yes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Next one. Just a second example here.
You can climb it to change it.
You could climb it.
All right, next. And these are direct, just to clarify, they're direct buried.
And they will not have a glass thing that will fill with crud?
No,
Good.
there is glass, let me clarify with that. It is housed within that deep skirted area. There's very limited opportunities for stuff to get in there.
It's just the bulb, right? Is that all, that's all I'm seeing up there, so.
Yeah, it's the LED unit itself. It's not a bulb, but yeah, that's correct.
Don't get technical.
Yeah,
They screw it in, don't worry.
It's a bulb.
yeah.
One advantage of these over what we do have, that open glass, it
Right.
tends to shine out. These will tend to illuminate more to the roadway and have less.
These do
Intrusive.
comply with, if you've ever heard of dark sky compliant, these are in compliance with that.
And is there the ability to cone off?
There is, yes, absolutely.
He knew it. Shield. Shield, yeah, thank you.
Next one. So this will run through a dollars and cents aspect and an overall scope of it. Are you able to maybe blow that up a little bit?
Yeah.
I didn't print one here. Okay, thank you. So The overall scope is that there is 97 existing poles and fixtures that the community owns and maintains. Roughly about 3.11 miles of roadway overall was highlighted in that first slide. The proposal based on the photometric, which is the lighting study that was put together by our manufacturer, calls for, and with Ed's help as well, and many variations and iterations of kind of dialing that into industry standards. It would call for 112 of the units that we had just looked at, the decorative units. Section B there, you can see the rows that would be covered with those.
Real quick.
Absolutely.
None of these existing poles are owned by FPL?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
Yeah, we don't own any of that,
Any of these
the infrastructure. That's correct. The secondary B section there is once you get to the very end of Pelican Boulevard, and I believe that street name does change at the very end, right after that last roundabout.
Yeah.
Come over the bridge.
Palazzo?
Plaza.
Yes, Palazzo.
Okay. Those currently are more of a traditional post-op, like are in the existing HOAs throughout the community. We've removed those and replaced basically in kind with the units that kind of match the same units that are actually within the existing HOA pods.
That's where you're talking.
Yeah.
Because that's a community that they face Pelican Preserve Boulevard or Palazzo, whatever it's called out there.
Yeah.
So that community, that particular community will be more impacted really than any other community.
Okay.
HOA.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
97 units already exist that we lease from FP&L.
No, we don't.
No, they are owned by the GSCDD? Okay. And then we're going to take them over, or we're going to?
They're being replaced.
They're being removed.
They're removed and turned over to FPL lights.
Okay, so
Yes.
they're being removed. So
Yes.
112 will be replacing the 97?
That is correct.
Got it.
And you guys
So-
take care of the old stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that
Our
includes-
existing lights don't have any conduit in the ground, and the wiring has been a challenge.
They're
Is it?
running into the same problems that we
Particularly
were running into over here. Everything is direct vary, so yeah, it's fun.
Here's the one thing that will really happen when it's all said and done. You won't get everybody complaining about it being dark at Christmas time.
Yeah, true.
They'll complain that it's too bright shining into their
Well, that's
house.
gonna
We
happen.
get that all the time.
They're
That's
gonna
I'm waiting for
complain
those
about,
to
they're
start
gonna
hooking the
complain
rest
about
of
the
it off.
pole, they're gonna complain
It'll be
about the bulb,
something, but that's
the
okay.
bulb. They're gonna complain about how close they are, how bright they are, how not bright they are. Yep,
And we like that everybody's engaged.
yes.
At least now we're gonna
How's that
replace the
work?
pole that.
We're getting it over
that
here
got
too.
run
so,
over.
yeah.
So again, it is releasing the poles, we're not going to own them.
Correct.
The
We will just be-
We get out of the streetlight business.
Yeah.
The district is no longer in the streetlight business
I like
once
that.
this happens.
I think it's the next slide. It'll kind of touch on
And
that.
that's a major thing, Patricia, because the lights go out and everybody starts screaming to PPCA and Yanni, the lights are out. I mean, it's not Yanni's, and then we'll say, it's Gateway, and then somebody, oh, no, it's FPL, but it is, now you're gonna be able to go, it's
We'll
FPL.
have consistency.
Yep.
Yanni will know where to go.
Okay,
You want this part?
now we
Yeah.
come to the good part.
Yes, so so contribution in aided construction, or CIAC, is the upfront cost to do the project. So what basically the upfront cost is for a project like this is the new underground infrastructure that needs to be put in, the 2-inch conduit, as well as the removal and disposal of the existing 93 units throughout the community. The upfront would be $250,162.91. There is a refundable.
It's just a very strange amount.
Okay, can we negotiate that 91 cents?
Yeah.
Hold on
I
one
would
second.
pay $162.91, maybe even $250.
There is $50,000 within that number that is a refundable back to the community deposit. What that will encompass is, it is a construction project. Our standard utility is we do not do any type of restoration. So that was built into the overall project cost. that if anything does come up from a landscaping standpoint, anything unforeseen with the nature of construction, we would work with the district and we would track any funds. We look to just make it easy if something happens to say, all right, we're gonna handle it.
So that would be your bucket to pull from.
That's,
We basically give you $50,000 of petty cash, and then you just reconcile it.
And if they don't use it, they don't use it. So if everything was perfect, the project is 200,000.
that's correct, yeah.
Give us an example of what might go wrong that we need to pull on. What would it be?
Sprinkler pipes, water mains.
I'll go more with something larger, yeah. It's,
Sewer lines.
yeah, sewer,
As long as
it's
City of Fort Myers,
it's tough, it is tough to say. Our contractors are very good. If there's something that was maybe located wrong, which then that gets into, locate concerns.
I don't think we've really had any big issues on our side. I mean, there's been a few things that have come up, but everything, they've been really good to work with, and they let us know right away when something happens. It gets handled immediately, so we.
Let me make clear that it's not a slush fund that we want to keep. Our goal is to give that $50,000 deposit back. It's just to make, if something does happen along the way, is to make the repairs and just administrative side of it a lot quicker.
Right, that way they don't have to put something together, come to us, get the money from us, and then they can just take care of it.
And is the same subcontractors that you're using over here, will that be who we are ending up with?
We have a few contractors here we have 4 contractors here on the West Coast. It is kind of based on man hours of who's available at that time, so I don't know that answer.
Doug, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when we did.
Can you come up, Steve? Sorry.
I'll give an example. Doug Zanner, we did some boring when we did the aerators. And when they were boring, they went through a sewer line and it basically collapsed the road. And it was a pretty big effort to repair that. Now, the boring company it was their fault, and they handled that. But there can be some decent sized issues when you're doing the boring.
Well, none of that piping shows up on ground penetrating.
I'm sure it's on the report.
And this comes back to then at your statement of the overages, unassigned.
Safety and security is anticipating covering the majority of this $250,000 with their underspend this year, but they do have the $90,000 carryover from last year that will make up any small difference.
So they will have the money to cover the 250 out of their budget.
The 200, yeah.
I think what you guys had talked about when we did the budget stuff last time was that if there's not enough for them between their reserve and their underspend for their budget, that it would come out of your unassigned reserves. But right now, I don't see that being a problem.
We've got enough unassigned.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
If you're gonna have to take some, it won't be much.
Okay. Eric?
So exactly is the same as done with the post-op lightings that we own and maintain throughout the community now. There's a monthly cost associated with that. That encompasses the rental of the pole, the fixture, inclusive of all the energy utilized and maintenance of all facilities and the underground. So it's our complete system, we own it, we maintain it.
That includes the energy?
That's correct.
So the 250 does not include the cost of the poles and the lighting fixtures?
We're kind of amortizing, that's correct. Yes, you're correct. The 250, that is for the installation of the underground, that's correct.
So, let me make sure. So, the Gateway will get a bill once a month for $86.19, and that's our electric bill.
That encompasses everything.
An additional bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're already getting a bill for all the other lights.
The community lights.
No,
No, the ones that are.
we're
The ones
getting
that are
a
on the
bill for
street.
the electric light, the ones that they're gonna take out, you're already paying for that.
So,
We're already paying $7,000 to $8,000 a month for all the lights, FPL lights in the neighborhood, existing.
Well, there's something
FPL
in the
lights
neighborhoods.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't change, nothing changes in the neighborhoods, this is for the mass, the general common area.
Right.
For the common area, we're gonna have an $8,600 a month bill. What is it now under the present system, you know?
We'll see it when we pull up the
It'd
budget.
be hard to pull
I
apart.
have it in the budget.
Just curious what's increased.
I wrote down 8,300 when you did the presentation before, so.
Yeah, no, but that's, yeah, I'm just curious, 8,300 is what we're paying now?
Yeah, and so it'd be
Oh, I see, it's got that
17,000
shitty
per month going forward. That's what the.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get at what the differential's gonna be.
It's hard to come up with. The electric bill today is minor, and a lot of these boulevard lights are fed off of meters that are also feeding other things, like the monuments and stuff along the way. And some of them are unmetered, and we have not been able to find where we've been getting an electric bill for those unmetered lights. And so we don't really know what the current electric costs may or may not be, but we know we've spent $30,000 or $40,000 so far this year just doing break fixing of the existing system. And that's through 6 months. You know, we budgeted like $70,000 or $80,000 in '25 just for repairs to these lights that we're going to replace. So very quickly, just the repairs will far exceed the cost. And we would have to then replace the whole system where he did a whole another analysis, which I don't know that we need to get into, but what it would cost us if we had to replace the system.
$100,000 a year.
Yeah, there's a report.
So.
Just, I'll kind of go to the very high level of this. What I've got on the left side is a fairly good budget number, I believe, based on contracted rates with other municipalities throughout the state. The equivalency replacement capital cost if the community was to replace the entire lighting system with what we're proposing, looking at probably $1.8, $1.9 million to do that. And you know, our upfront number is going to be the $250,000 with potential for refund of the $50,000, so a net of $200,000. And so if you were to take the 1.84 million, subtract off the $200,000, let's net it at 1.5. Divide that out by and I estimated very conservatively on this. So I said $9,000 is the monthly cost for it. For our system. If you divide that out by the $1.5 million capital, you can see where, you know, this is simple math I'm looking at, but you can see where that cross point happens. I didn't take into any consideration, and that cross, I believe, was about 11, 12 years. I didn't take into consideration if the community, no electricity. I didn't take that into consideration, a community owned. And over that 11-year period, I didn't take into consideration any maintenance. So I feel it's a fairly strong program that we offer.
It says 122 here, wasn't it 112?
120.
Under customer installed, 122.
Both of them say 122.
And
Number of poles.
New decorative black concrete poles, and yet I thought the other one, it said
112.
112. I mean, it's.
That is a good catch.
Probably a typo.
Yes, that's a typo, I believe, on the 122.
It should be 112.
It should be 122.
Yes, I believe it should be 112.
All right.
Oh, 112.
That's what
I
we
think
did
so.
there.
I think next, I think I went to the monthly. 112 is the correct.
Okay,
Those were
just want to make sure.
references, the 122 with references, weren't they?
No, that was typo. The number breakdown was correct, that was a typo on my part.
Got it. We'll allow it.
So
Thank you.
It's going to take 11 years for us to pay for these poles.
Yeah, whatever the 9,000 divided by the $1.5 million.
And then, so what happens? Will that, one question, I guess I know the answer, but I got it. So that 8,600 a month, that will go up annually? Will go up with adjusted with rates?
Yeah, our rates obviously are filed and approved with the Public Service Commission. So that is a.
But that's the only thing that would adjust in that $8,600 is rates.
That's-
So at the end of the 11th year, when the poles are paid for, does that 86 adjusted go down?
It doesn't. I would look at it from a standpoint of call it in perpetuity.
Okay, why?
we always own and maintain those assets.
Even though we pay for them.
Yes.
But you really didn't, we're only paying, the cost is the 250 we're gonna be putting down. It's just the installation cost.
No, I know that, but the 8,600 includes the purchase of the poles.
It costs their replacement.
Right, they're building a reserve to do it later.
It's how
I won't be here.
it's how the regulated.
Yeah, you'll still be on the board.
What is your average repair time?
So we have experienced some challenges with our restoration. I will address that right up front. I can also say, so our standard repair, if you were to put in an outage ticket today, you'll see that it says 40 days. This is something that is being addressed within the organization. We do know that restoration needs to be looked at, and so we are constantly looking to improve on those timeframes.
And would that, the prioritization of a community with multiple outages, is there any prioritization?
It really is based on when the ticket is put in. There's a ticketing system that any citizen can put in. So it's not based on community, it's based on the service territory. So it is kind of worked in an order.
Is 40 days acceptable for the PUC?
It is within the Public Service Commission allowance, yes.
Is it acceptable to your customers?
As I mentioned, we are looking to always improve our service for our customers.
Because old people get really irritable when they can't see down the street.
Let me actually bring up one thing. You brought up a good point, is how these lights are fed compared to a traditional lighting circuit system. We do tie directly into our transformers, so it's not necessarily a complete linear circuit. So we take the shortest path that we can. So we've got multiple access points that we're pulling from. Traditionally, what you would see is an individual outage. Could be a fixture failure, could be one of the photocells. These are operating dusk to dawn photocells, same as the community. You rarely will see a transformer failure, which would take out anything that is on that transformer. But again, because it's not a linear circuit, there may be only a handful of lights. So still the same concern, but I wanted to kind of make sure that understand.
It's not like a string of Christmas lights.
You should not, that's a great reference, I like that, thank you. You shouldn't lose.
Like Christmas lights where
Yeah, there should be no scenario that you lose the boulevard.
Yeah, our current system is fed from most of it's separate transformers, because they're 480, 240, 480 volt transformers. And then there's a single photocell and breaker that then serves a long string of lights. The new system basically comes off, the majority of them come off residential transformers. So if there's a transformer failure, people's lights are going to be out in their houses and they're going to call in too. But then each of the fixtures has its own photocell, so that if there's a photocell failure, it just takes out the single light, it doesn't take out the whole string.
That's correct.
And I know one other thing that I've been hearing a lot of lately is that the transformers that we've got right now are all rusted out and look horrendous. Will they be replaced with this project?
That does not fall under the LED lighting solutions, it would not, but I'd be more than happy to follow up with the district to put in touch with our power delivery group.
Okay.
Run to failure.
Not till
And
it fails.
in the end, they don't replace them until they're totally damaged or something. They came back with a no.
I've got a mall up there.
Yeah.
Maybe we have extra paint from the monuments that you just painted.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. We could have a contest. Okay.
That I might not agree with that.
I think we're probably approaching the end here. This just was a breakdown if anybody wanted to see where the $250,000 is derived from. So this is the cost.
Half of it's removals. So.
It is, it absolutely is, that's correct. So I don't think there's a need to go line item through this unless anyone has a question.
The one thing that I had thought of, question that we could probably deal with later, is these are some of the post top lights, like out by the front, are the same light fixtures and glass that is in town center, which is, that stuff is very hard to come by. We found out when we wanted to put another light at Pelican and Cypress Grove. So I don't know if there'd be any appetite for the community association to want to snag some of those as they're retired, or pay somebody to take them out and stash them somewhere in case they were to ever need them.
If that's something, as we take those out, if you would like them,
You're just gonna junk them, right? Probably.
yeah, we'll absolutely.
Adam's office, and everybody will be saying, what, good luck.
It'll be in that parking lot.
Yes.
Storage lot.
They're gonna do that, I hope they have a plan to use them.
Something.
I'd just like to
At
say
least the
thank
glass
you very much. It was a
walls
very
and
good
the polished
presentation,
stuff.
and I appreciate your time being here.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Any
The
other questions?
construction timeline, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, I would be based on, well, I don't know what the overall consensus.
Based on approval today.
Okay. And once it is reviewed by kind of the next step here with the Board of Supervisors, should there be an approval of the project, if we receive the funding by the end of June, then there's the confidence we'd be completed Q1 of 2026. Probably towards the, I would like to err on the side of caution and
Did
say.
you actually complete the whole?
Yes.
Wow, that's fast.
I would like to give ourselves, I'm actually building in, I believe, a little bit of buffer, but I'd be comfortable with probably March 31st of 2026. With a caveat there, storm sometimes obviously can have a factor of that, but our internal process data, that's a comfortable date.
And Laura, none of these streets are scheduled for any sort of repaving during this process.
Not, besides Pelican Preserve Boulevard, not.
Well, that's when would that be done?
I don't know.
Just have to make sure that there's a line.
The idea would be
We don't have a
this
date for
time
that
next
yet,
year,
so.
not during the prime season.
Right, it
after
would
Easter.
be, yeah, it'd be after snowbird season.
So the lights might already be in when they do this.
Right, that's all I'm trying to make sure suddenly we don't, not looking at, well, we can't pay, we got all these FPL trucks on the street.
I have a question. There was something raised at the meeting about perhaps we need permits from the city for this project, or what else do we need to do?
Yes, so FPL does not recommend fixture locations or specifications from our catalog. As I mentioned, one of our vendors, who this particular fixture is from, they utilize IES, which is Illumination Engineering Society. They're kind of the overall guideline for lighting standards. In addition, there was consideration taken from local Florida Green Book, DOT type standards, also with input from the community as well. So there was some general consensus of that. What was not taken into consideration is if there are specific lighting ordinances, as this community does fall within the city of Fort Myers, if there's any type of permitting that would be required for this project. And that would be beyond, so it might be a limited development order. That would be at the community's discretion to decide if that's if it is something that needs to be done or not.
So you guys wouldn't pull any permits that would be having to be done outside of your?
That would be outside of our scope of work, that's correct. And this would be related to, again, is there a requirement to submit plans and go through a permitting process? That is something still that we'll assist in figuring out with the city, but that was not taken into consideration.
With it?
And they're not city streets.
They're not city streets, so Laura, from your
We
perspective?
don't know, it's
Yeah,
kind of
they're
gray
not
area.
Pelican streets either, they're gateways.
They belong to us, yeah. Chelsea
Right.
said she doesn't want them in there during season, but I guess that's.
But they are
she
within the
doesn't know
city,
what.
so it's kind of a gray area,
Right.
it depends
Yeah.
on.
So who takes point on that then?
So if we just got out of gateway, then only the city would have to approve it.
Okay, we got a lot to do there.
What's the next
Let's
step
keep
on
going.
that then, Laura, would you? suggest what we do next?
You guys need to let me know if you want to do it or not, so you need to take a vote.
Yeah.
Because I need to know before 4 o'clock so I can get it on the agenda. It'll go to the board next week if you can do it.
Okay. So I'd
Either
like-
way, I'm not saying you have to approve it. Should you
No.
choose to approve it today, I need to know before 4 o'clock so that I can get it on the agenda for next week.
So any other questions for Eric? Any other questions that would be pertinent to a decision right now?
Thank
All right.
you, nice job.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Appreciate everyone's time, thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project.
Okay.
So John?
So John, Barry made the motion. Is there a second?
Ed?
Second. Ed? Yeah, Ed.
That was a little faster than you, Marty, sorry. Like, just that much faster.
Okay.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. It's a unanimous decision. Let's push it forward to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
If we're so exciting though, don't you want to stay and listen to the rest of it?
I wouldn't know all that much about it.
That was great.
Yeah. All right, boardwalk accessibility update. So this is talking about the ADA use of the boardwalk. As was mentioned, that we did apply for a permit modification, which was approved. Now, we have to ask the question of, is there anything that we need to do at this point, or does this go back to the ponds group in conjunction with safety and security to come forward with a proposal?
Can I ask a question? When the walkway got redone initially, right?
The
It
boardwalk?
was narrowed,
Right,
right? And then it was blocked off.
right.
Correct.
And what was the original thinking of all of that? So, and then why would we now
Right.
want to readdress that?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
In the process of redoing the boardwalk, we found out that the permit that was issued for that boardwalk to be in the conservation area there did not permit golf carts to be on it. Although for 20 years there had been golf carts driving across it. So when we went to go get the final inspections and the permit approvals and everything to redo the boardwalk, South Florida said, nope, no golf carts, you have to put bollards up. Only handicap, like wheelchairs, those things are allowed in there. So the openings that are there are wide enough to allow those types of vehicles access, but not a golf cart. So that was where that came from. That was actually in our permit criteria. The criteria of the permit for that said no, specifically called out no golf carts. They were forbidden, even though they had
Yeah,
been doing it forever.
So we're saying that
It was
a
orig-
wheelchair goes through.
Wheelchairs are fine.
It was originally permitted for pedestrian accessibility, which was for handicap. And so then when it was redone to conform to those, the bollards were put up to restrict it to wheelchair size. But over the more recent years, some of the handicap accessibility laws have changed to include motorized vehicles. Golf carts are now considered a class of mobility device.
Depends on who you ask, but
But
yeah. That one's like,
Well, but when you read the law, it says those, but then they have the ability with those to have other safety issues considered. So you could actually restrict golf carts even though they are mobility if it's a safety problem. And I think that's where this whole debate is, the width of the boardwalk is not wide enough for safe passage of a golf cart and a pedestrian.
correct.
You couldn't walk safely by a golf cart coming at you on that. So the compromise suggestion that's been advocated is just to open up the very short part from Sienna into the first circle for golf carts.
But part of that was a parking issue.
Right.
You cannot park that close to the two entrances. There's not property there. We
Right.
have one designated parking area over a bridge closer to Brocky. That's the only place that you can legally park. The cars park on the preserve, right as they go into the entrance on brought, yes, they're not supposed to, but it was a parking issue. So as Ed said, you're only gonna be able to come in from the Sienna side, and you're only gonna be able to come up to the first major circle. And then the continuing through will be blocked off, and the back to the bird watching circle will be blocked off. That's the proposal.
Okay.
But there are things that need to be discussed about this, and one of the major ones to me is garbage. Because we've had problems in the past with people just recently loading up a trash can this is just pedestrians coming in, loading up a trash can, and nobody taking responsibility for the removal of that trash can. And I guess technically it would have been a gateway responsibility, but they didn't know it.
We took
So
the trash
so we
can
took
out.
the trash can out completely.
And from Chelsea, she had said that it is not permissible for us to have a garbage in there. So
Correct.
when we went forward with trying to be helpful,
Right.
it went counter to the.
So then if we were to open this for the mobility, and someone's gonna come in and kind of wanna sit around those areas to picnic and use lack of a better word, we need to make sure they're removing their own trash, because we cannot put any type of can in there.
Correct.
Okay.
It was only filled with dog poop.
Yeah, primarily it was dog poop, or bear poop, or hog poop, whatever you ran.
There probably need signs that say, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a signage concern.
So pack in, pack out.
Pack
You bring
in.
it in, you take it out.
That's right, that's right.
Laura, do you need a motion to continue with this?
Just
Project.
Doug said
another,
numbers.
yeah, he's gonna come back with that. I have also heard from a small minority of people that they are very concerned that, you know, they're not gonna be able to back up the golf carts in that 30-foot space.
If you have two coming?
I mean, you can see the other end.
You can see the other
It's not
end.
like it's blind.
But
You'd be an idiot
it
to
has
walk
been
there,
stated
someone's
to me
going
There
that,
are no idiots in Pelican.
yeah, that is a concern, that you might have two people coming in at the same time, and there might be,
In at the same time?
well,
One's exiting.
one in,
One
one
exit.
out.
One's exiting the.
Right, they can't, you said, Patricia, they can't pass. The other one is, if you give them an inch, they'll want to take a mile.
One thing that was talked about at the HOA meeting this morning was that they are talking about getting stickers for the golf carts that are handicap accessible or approved. So we might have another means of identifying.
But you can't control it.
You can't control it. I
control this
agree.
at all.
If we can't have trash cans in the sewer
Right.
area, can they be at the entrances?
It can't
That's
be in
what-
the conservation area.
No.
No, that's
No.
where it was, at the
Yeah.
entrance to the boardwalk.
We got one
Right, because that's still part of the
No, but it was
conservation
inside, it
area.
was inside.
Nobody had responsibility for removing the garbage.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna pay more to have gateway people come over there and remove it.
And I
And
was
it
told,
becomes a dog dump.
yeah,
It really
it
does.
is not permissible to have garbage, a garbage bin in that.
It's-
Conservation area.
And the space between the golf cart path and and the areas where you would put the trash can, that is conservation area.
Depends on the map.
Well,
Well,
It's
generally,
it's a,
Depends on the inspector.
In
Right.
these situations, what we've been running into, it's better to err on the side of caution.
Is this the second issue that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Not the access by people who are handicapped?
Right.
But now we're talking about
and the handicap
garbage.
can access, they just can roll
Right.
in a wheelchair. But they
Right.
can't get close enough. I mean, it's a hall, not that, from where the parking is designated, for them to get from there over to the entrance into the,
okay, so with all of that said, in my mind, we should just kind of wait and
For Doug.
have Doug and his group move forward with a
I mean,
proposal.
You can see there's 4 things here that need to be done
Okay.
before we can either
and
move
don't
forward.
recall, Peter Salter is just got a campaign going. He has researched the law and says you can't do it. So he's been writing FLOWAC and South Water Management, asking for them not to approve.
But they did approve.
Well,
they did approve it.
Peter had.
So
Well,
again,
they didn't approve it, they approved us to apply to have the
To apply.
restriction removed, so it hasn't been approved yet.
okay,
so
good clarification.
Just clarifying
I
that.
thought we applied for it.
No, we can't, for us to apply, this is what we need to do down here in order for it to get approved. There's all of these things need to be done.
Oh, I thought we had submitted the.
No, we
Yeah,
can
that's what I thought
apply
too.
for a permit modification.
This is
It's
where you
not-
start to look at your costs going up.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
okay,
Okay,
that's
so
different
So
than
we
what I
have not
thought.
applied
Yeah,
yet.
I
We just
thought-
got,
Okay.
before they had just said, nope, we're not even gonna talk about it. So this is a big step.
Yeah, but I mean, we went and had that design, that Tetra Tech or somebody do the design, and I thought they were then submitting the permit.
That's part of, I think that's part of the environmental report, but no, the permit is not approved yet. We're approved to apply to get a modification,
Oh, okay.
which they didn't even want to discuss prior, so.
See, that one,
No.
just as Patricia's talking, 3.1 is capable of handling golf cart traffic. Well, is it capable of handling two-way traffic? No.
It doesn't say two-way traffic.
It doesn't say that, but I'm the one over there on the approval board, and I'm looking, well, how are they going back and forth, and they're gonna come back at you.
Well, also is the structure like
Strong.
physically strong enough to handle a golf cart driving on it,
Okay.
which I know when you
Put
guys
up another
did.
mailbox.
I thought it would.
Yeah, I was
No,
under the
we-
same impression too.
No permit has been applied for, we've just been approved to apply for the permit modification.
Oh my God.
This
Typical government stuff. They just flat out wouldn't even talk about it before, so
I'd
this
say-
is huge.
I mean, are we sure that this is something that our residents are really adamant that we do, given we're talking limited availability at the best,
Yeah.
and access to that limited availability is pretty limited? I don't know, is it something that people are really clamoring for? I don't know where it came from.
Given some people that couldn't get access to their.
Before,
Yeah.
before
Area
the,
where they used to gather.
before the pond starts
Yeah, what you
working, or could we go to Tetra Tech or Passarella or somebody and say, what would it take to meet these requirements, and what would the cost,
If
get
you,
a cost estimate to
Yeah,
meet
that's-
these? Because if it's gonna cost $100,000
That is-
of study to meet these requirements, to even submit a permit, to me, that's a, no, we're not gonna do that.
okay, so you're asking me to have Tetra Tech give you a TA to do this and
Just a
gather
quick-
this
Didn't we
information?
already commit some funds to this before?
They did a design of what,
Yeah, but it sounds like that wasn't for the next stage.
Just, I think what you're looking for really, is not them to give you anything really in writing. Laura talks to say, John, what would it cost to do this? And he says, that looks like it's about $75,000. That's what you want.
right.
Right.
I would-
Okay.
Yep,
Is that something that we can get?
I can try.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, well then, table this one for now.
I move that we table this for now.
Okay, we've got a,
How long do you want to table it for?
Next month.
Table it until Doug brings back his report. That's where I
I think
am.
they meet in June, so you might want to move it to July.
July, yeah, we won't.
Plus, that gives me a little time to
get past it.
Okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
and whenever we can get some sort of handle on what it might
Well, that's
cost.
what Laura's.
That's what I'm saying, that gives me some
Yeah.
time, because I'm kind of like knee deep in budget stuff right now too, so.
Yeah.
I'll have Paul help me.
okay, so the motion is to table this until the July
July
meeting.
meeting.
And
Alright.
that's motion on the table, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. And Marty's opposed. All right, so let's table it for now.
I'll have Georgia add it back to your July meeting.
Thank you,
I think we
appreciate it.
need this sooner. I think we need to look at this sooner than July.
Nothing happens fast, that is for sure. All right, we did ask for a letter that says that the fire impact fee credits have expired. So here we've got it, that is a funding source that no longer exists. So thank you for getting that for us. Okay. And then we have our budget discussion.
We have 20 minutes.
Yep, well, we go along.
There shouldn't be too much on here to change. You guys did most of your talking during your meeting the last time, so.
Laura, first question, why did the administrative services go down operational administrative services go down so much?
This,
Yeah, the labor went down, the salaries went down to like $120,000.
it's probably the way it got dispersed. You guys are,
Is that based on the different assessment methodology?
Yep,
where we're paying,
A third of half.
yeah,
Basically.
31% of a half rather than allocations?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And plus, that's not all, like we talked about too, that's not all of the admin salaries, like not all of my time is in there. A lot of my time is actually going, some is going to Parks and Rec, some is going to
Right.
utilities.
Right.
So, and same with Chelsea,
Okay.
so. That's why, it's just a
Before you were
difference in
paying a certain
allocation.
just percentage of your time, now it's.
You were before, now you're just sharing it, everybody's sharing
So
it.
let me, so when your time goes to Park and Rec, something that we will now pay for that time, but it will be calculated under Park and Rec, so we're.
Under
gonna
Park
pay-
and Rec, so you're paying for a smaller portion of it, because you're not paying the
We're
full,
paying the 0.1.
yeah, 0.15, yeah. And I only think I have like 2% of my time in there, so it's not much. Most of my, I'm pretty much even between admin and utilities, so.
As you expand Park and Rec, so will be more labor probably needed over in that area.
So right now, we don't have any budget for Park and Rec, right?
There,
It's
It's
not
all
in here
blank.
yet, no, I'm actually, as soon as the board pack is published, so if you wait until by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, once the board pack is published for next week, there's a couple of things I need to finish tying out, but I'm hoping to have it done by noon tomorrow, which means the board pack will be published by the end of the day, and you'll actually see the Park and Rec impact. Everything will be in there. It won't actually be on this sheet, there's another tab that shows all the assessments, and it's broken down by each of the silos. It shows what you have for administrative, what's Park and Rec, what's your waterway, what your roadway is, all of that, it's all broken out.
So when can I look at this and make an informed assessment of it?
Tomorrow when the board pack's published.
So I can't do that today?
You can, but this doesn't tell you what you're gonna get assessed. And I can tell you right now, it went down for Pelican,
Well,
so.
these are our budget amounts that we have to clarify. How that filters into the assessment.
It's different.
It's
yeah.
different.
Well, actually, these, you don't
But these
have
are-
anything, it's totally
we don't have
into
anything we can say
here.
about it, yeah.
This is the part where you
Okay.
guys have your input.
Safety and security.
So starting with operating expenses, actually, is
Yeah,
where you guys,
There weren't any changes from our workshop there.
no.
I talked to Jennifer, and we would like to add 23,000 to the safety and security other, I think it's other,
Right.
or
I'll talk to her.
gatehouse
Yeah,
repairs.
I'll get it from her. Yeah, but I got it in writing to go with my stuff.
Okay, but we want to, before it goes to the board,
Yeah, I know.
we want to add 23,000. That does two things. It makes safety and security basically flat, but it also gives us a few extra dollars for the gate technology replacement.
Smart.
Do you want to go that in the gate line, the gatehouse repair and
I
maintenance?
think it was gatehouse repairs, they bumped that up to 40, and we just want to add the extra 23 to that.
Okay.
And
Does this include any of the electrical outlet replacements that are needed, the breaker boxes, or for the guardhouse? That was identified that years ago that they all needed to be replaced.
I thought,
I don't know, all I
David?
know is Chelsea went with the guys that found a bunch of stuff that needed to be done to the gatehouse, and they did a bunch of repairs this year. I don't know that there was anything to the electrical, but I know they did some work on the door and other things. There was $20,000 or $30,000 worth of repairs. that
They rewired the whole electrical panel and everything in there too, I think. If they didn't, they're
They
going
did do
to,
that.
need to be
I don't know if
redone.
they
So
did.
you're talking about just bumping that 40 under the gatehouse repairs to
To
63?
go to 63, right. And capital outlay for roads, that's 400,000, but we want 100,000 of that to be paid for to come from our capital reserves.
Go ahead, let's go this way.
No, I see, that's right, I'm not in this year you want to do that?
Yeah, then that's for the 26 budget.
Yeah, so you're squeezing down the assessment in the year that.
No.
bringing-
The road resurfacing program, they're looking at spending $300,000 a year. Some years it will be a little more, some years will be a little
Okay.
less. So this year we had 300,000 in there for road repairs. We could only do the two, so it was a little less. We had some carryover. Next year, we thought we could do Pelican for 300. Daniel thought it was going to take more and suggested 400. So we want to keep it the assessment level, based on the program, we want to do 100,000 from capital reserves. That will keep the assessment for the roads level. And then next year, the 27 budget, we'll only do 200,000 of roads and put 100,000 back into capital reserves.
And the
We're going
ponds
to
are
do the
doing
same
something
thing. We're going to do the same thing on ponds. But I want to make sure that it gets in here that the 100,000 coming from capital reserves goes against the safety and security, because they get allocated differently under the new methodology.
Yep.
The other thing is the methodology. Not all, you've got all this stuff in the road silo.
It's not all going on the roads.
The gatehouse,
Anything gatehouse related and the security services I'll add in just to you guys, so.
yeah, the contract services,
Yep.
utilities for the
Yep,
gatehouse.
the police patrol, utilities for gatehouse.
Gatehouse repairs.
Street sweeping,
Everything is roads.
gatehouse repairs.
Street sweeping should go to roads.
Yep,
Why is holiday lighting and decor in admin versus roads?
And safety and security.
Oh, landscape, sorry, I jumped ahead.
The question on the assessment methodology, he put the police patrols in our admin, but I saw on Gateway's budget last time that they were going to roads. I think we just need to be consistent. If the sheriffs go to
it's
roads.
admin on both. This is a week old, so,
I-
yeah.
So,
But we don't,
Yes, I'm telling you, it's an admin.
so both those first two are in
and
admin?
I'm from Missouri, I can show you.
You will be able to see
Show
it
me.
tomorrow when the thing is
I
published,
know when
because
they
there's
vote
actually,
on it, right? They
there's
vote on it
actually a
tomorrow, right?
silos
Do they vote on
tab.
it tomorrow?
Next week.
There's actually a silos tab that shows all of these items, and you can see exactly what silo they went into.
Do they vote on the high water tomorrow,
No,
or next week?
no,
2 weeks?
yeah,
Or 2
no, not
meetings?
till June 5th.
Okay.
So this thing is gonna change probably 15 times between even when I publish it tomorrow and it goes to the board in
So
June.
then how can we approve it? That's my question.
Well-
Okay.
How do we approve a budget that's
This is our last shot at it.
This is your high watermark. Generally, the board does not touch the Pelican budget. So whatever you guys say you want in your budget, that's, the board goes, okay, unless there's something that's really weird. And normally I say, no, this is why they did that, and they say, okay. So,
That's just the part we control.
correct.
So
Okay.
this park and recs and the administrative building and all that stuff, the board of supervisors will determine how much our taxes will go up or
okay, so
down.
these numbers are the max numbers that
For the
Correct.
amounts we control.
I
Yes.
understand that.
And then we set we call it the high water mark in June, so it's best to put in more if you're
And
going
then
for
you're
June, and then we
comfortable
can
with
pare
all
it
the
down by
things
the time it gets to August when the final budget is actually adopted.
Okay, got it.
And that's normally what we do, is, because if you, once they approve the budget in June, you can't add anything to it.
Got it.
You can leave it the same, you can take it down, but you can't add to it.
You
So
can
it's
move
better to
things
put
around,
everything
you
in.
just can't change the
So that's
total
what she's
assessment.
saying, she's
Yeah.
gonna move things around. Put
Well, no,
it-
I won't touch your guys' budget unless you ask me to. I'm just saying the budget as a whole is gonna change before it actually gets to June, so.
Not our
this.
portion.
No, you guys tell me what numbers to plug into your budget for
Do the
this,
next
these
one.
categories. So so I have it right, you have 23,000, add that to Gatehouse R&M, and then, this is staying at 400,000, but in the bottom part, I'm gonna use $100,000 to offset that from capital
So
reserves.
the net compared 25 to 26 will be very, very close.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, pretty much right on the nose.
right. Yeah.
All right, moving on to landscape then. Now, this is that inside the gate, outside the gate thing, that's why we've got the
The big-
reduction.
Yes,
The 388,000 for landscape contract services is the revised budget for inside the gate with landscaping for the tree line right away moving over to the gateway assessment area.
Still in roads.
So, Ed, can I, you've referenced in other conversations, so when and if the Stony Brook Road transfer takes place, when will that impact?
This should impact this budget. It will occur before this budget gets adopted.
Okay, and that impacts us favorably? We don't know?
We don't know, with no Stony Brook roads, under the assessment methodology, they set the baseline, depending on what goes to roads versus admin, either Gateway or Pelican will set the new baseline. And then things will just, my gut tells me it will be favorable to us.
Your gut is correct.
So then,
But again, it kind of gets into which one of these line items, which silo
Which
they go
silo.
into.
which brings up the preemptive question that I had, why is lighting for the roadways in admin?
Because the holiday lighting and decorations, we did the same thing on the Gateway side. That's for the monuments, the palm trees, all this kind of
Right,
thing.
I
It's
mean,
not,
I noticed.
and that's, so that just gets charged to you because it's inside your community, so Pelican pays just
It's
for
like a
that.
gatehouse and.
And it's the same on this
security.
side, the lights for Gateway proper are being shared just by Gateway. So we did separate those things.
And
And then the extra part that we had for lights for, when we do our holiday event over here, because they put extra lights in Sherman Soccer Field and we have a tree and all that, we pulled those out as well, so they're, because that's not a general expense.
I would argue that the monuments and signs probably don't belong in roads, but they're in roads on both sides, so it's probably a moot point. And just for your education on it, on the methodology, whether it's in roads or admin, doesn't make very much difference for, under the methodology, because Pelican is age restricted. Every door is treated as one, the same, where in other areas where they're not age restricted, single-family residences and condos and apartments all have different trip generations. So
Which are double what you guys have.
it has, whether it's
So there was
roads
some
or
safety
admin, has a bigger
guardrails.
effect over on Gateway. For Pelican,
It didn't really matter.
it doesn't matter much.
Okay.
The golf course has a little impact because it creates a few more trip generations than admins, but it's minor in the big scheme of things.
All right. Anything then changing on landscape?
No.
So they
They're
won't-
basically keeping theirs flat except for the net reduction due to the movement of the tree line right away over.
Okay. All right, then moving on to the waterway management.
So Park and Rec, we don't see the numbers.
The,
I think the only thing here is the
Yeah, 300 is coming from reserves.
yep, I have that
PPAC,
too.
the
Yeah,
capital
I already have
So then
that.
that's gonna be very close to nominal.
Right.
Same.
And then next year, he won't do it, he'll
He'll
contribute
he'll put it
300
down
to
here,
reserve.
he'll just move
Right.
this line
Same
instead on
approach.
here. So, yep, I have that in my notes already.
Okay, so we essentially are fairly flat,
Ours,
Our portion.
our portion,
Our
yes.
portion.
our
Okay.
portion.
Which it should be.
Yep,
And I've actually been able to reduce some of the things on the administrative side as well. I took a really hard look at stuff this year to make sure that we aren't over budgeting for stuff that we consistently haven't been spending on, so that it affects everybody as a whole, so. Because I've been like down in the weeds, inside the weeds, and the little pickers in the weeds on this one this year, so, I'm really into it, much more than normal.
Nora, can you go down to the admin building?
Skip about Park and Rec.
And just so you know, this doesn't reflect that, but this number here will be carried over here and offset down here, so.
Okay, the 265, 480 was the estimate when we did the budget last year. And we were going to use carry forward that we were clawing back from landscape to cover that, plus the 200,000 that shortage that we had with calculation
Mixed
error for the
calculation.
commercial.
Yep.
None of that 265, 480 wasn't assessed in the 25 budget. The question is, what's the number for the admin building that we're going to have to cover? And when they, I don't know if you guys have come up with that, Laura, when they approved the contracts. They had a cost of $6.6 million for the admin building. And our share at the time was us paying 14%, and that it was $924,000. The bond was going to cover $506,000 and change, and we were going to have to come up with another $150 or so thousand. If you use
On top of the 260.
on top of this. If you use the new allocations where enterprise gets 50%.
Nope, we have to use the old because that's how the bonds were approved, so you get 14%. There's no change, we have to use the methodology for the bonds that was used for the bonds.
Even for the overage?
Correct.
Okay. So so that should be 924 minus 506 is what we should have to come up with in 26.
I'll verify that, I haven't known to check it. The O&M part, the new methodology applies to, but the construction, because those are covered under the bonds and you're responsible for 14%, that doesn't change.
Okay. I didn't know whether or not to.
Nope, the methodology only applies to everything
I know
going forward.
our bond amount was set whether or not.
Yep, yep.
But you're still looking at 400,000 total, round figure.
I'll verify that.
924 minus 406.
420 or so.
Four, yeah,
So that's like another 160,000.
plus the 260 you had.
No, isn't it like another 160?
518,000.
So I think that
I
belongs in the
kind of
budget.
do, yeah.
Without taking off the
I could go
budget.
until,
I don't like
no, that was me, because I thought everybody was gone. I can stay till about 4:15, but I do have to be somewhere today.
Okay,
so.
so let's move along here.
I think that number belongs in the budget and not reflective of anything coming out of reserve at this point.
Well, you've already accounted for it in the 25 budget, so it's
No.
gonna carry forward.
Not
We will
gonna
carry.
I don't
we use
agree with that
carry
method of
forward because we
accounting.
didn't
I just don't
assess
agree
for
with
it.
that method of
Right.
accounting. No money was spent. I still got the $10 in my pocket.
So I'm unclear what you want me to do,
518,000
To the budget.
in the budget.
and you don't want it offset down here?
No.
No.
At this point, and we may do that later after we start.
For the
this
high
is
water,
the high
for the high water.
mark.
Okay.
Sounds like,
I will verify the amount and plug that in.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else on that? All right, do we want to talk about your agenda item details prior to asking for the budget to be approved, or?
They're separate.
Okay, so
They're separate.
you don't need to do that.
Well,
So,
they're this year's, but
okay. Is there then a motion?
I move that we accept the budget as we discussed.
So if it's okay, I can word it, because that way I cover everything that I took down that I need to change on it.
Okay.
So
What she said.
taking the budget that's in the P-PAC agenda packet for today, I have 3 changes that I need to make. First is to add $23,000 under safety and security to the gatehouse R&M. And then to take $100,000 from capital reserves to offset the $400,000 of roads for safety and security. And then to verify what the actual total expected overage of the admin building cost is going to be, put that on that line and do not offset it with reserves for purposes of the high water mark.
and offset 300,000 of the
Oh, I
ponds.
had that already.
That's
That's already in
that's in
there.
there.
That's already in the
Okay.
budget. So these are things that are not on there that I need to do.
Okay. Second.
Okay, second by Ed, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll bring your recommendations to the board.
Thank you. Thanks for walking us through this. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes. Ed, do you want to take us through the Ed Hedges May 8th agenda item details?
Well, we paid off the bond, and I don't know if we're going to have to do a budget amendment so we don't get a nasty grant from the auditor like we did this year where we spent money that we didn't have in the budget. But I've got the numbers here. There was estimated costs, but on the financials, you know, the out was 962,875, and the in March was 225, but April's that was just posted, it was 231,000, which was awful close to the 231,910 that we would get from all the assessments if we collect everything. So I guess we need to have them move 731,000, I believe, from our capital reserve, reduce our capital reserves by $731,000.
Because that's what we asked them to do when we
Right.
approved it.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
they wanted to wait until they knew what all the charges and costs and
Got it,
everything
okay.
were gonna be.
So, and I've supported except put not a specific number, because that number may not be perfect there. That's all
Well,
you want to balance it out. Right, is that what I'm hearing you, we need to have that taken out of the capital, whatever the final number is.
Well, we're within $15 or $20, so to me, if you do 730, reduce to 731,000.
You're good enough, okay.
It takes it out of the capital and
We'll have that.
All right, if you're comfortable, all right.
I
So
mean,
where are you
right now, it's
cutting?
all coming out of our unassigned, so whether it's off $10 or $15,
Right,
it's
all
still coming out of our,
And where is it going to?
Pay off the bond.
They're paying off the bond.
We already paid off one.
Where'd you get the money from?
Took it out of your bank account, out of your money market account.
But he's trying to reflect it on the financial statement.
We had asked that it be taken out of reserves.
out of
Okay.
capital reserves.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
And it just came out of unassigned.
Right.
The other,
Balance sheet should have come out of payments.
the other thing, when we did the 25 budget, we were going to use 209, claw back the 24 carry forwards from landscape and 50,000 from ponds to balance our budget. And with the issues with ponds being over budget and other things, I don't think we should touch there, so I would recommend or move that we reduce the landscape carry forward reserves by 294,265, so that they still have their 25 carryover.
So basically, they're just saying, take off 24 carryover.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what we
Had
had
talked about.
moved to do back when we did the budget, but it never,
It wasn't reflected.
wasn't ever reflected.
So that makes sense to me.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been done, it just isn't reflected. That's right.
Right, they normally don't make the entries until the end of the fiscal year, but I can have them do them early. So, and we're in the fiscal year that was supposed to happen, so it's not like it didn't get done, it just hasn't been done yet.
Yeah. And yet we appreciate that because it makes it clear for us.
Yeah, otherwise you just,
Yeah.
you've got to catch up with these things.
I think it's more because they don't want to like take it out and then put it back, and so that's why they just do it all at the end.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And I get that, but these were
It's fine.
kind of one-time transfers. And
Well,
the reason, and part of the confusion is on number 3 here with the ponds budget. We did, this is where I agree where we probably shouldn't have moved to increase their budget $100,000 based on what they did, because it was supposed to come out of their reserves. They increased the budget, but never reduced the reserves. So that's why ponds has a 98,000 carry forward. They started the year with 236,000 of reserves with a budget of 804. They spent a little over $1 million and went over budget, over their original budget, 239,000, which, so that 100,000 increase in their budget that basically came from our undesignated reserves. So to me, there's several options. To me, at this point, with where we're, ponds was going to need an extra 130 or 100 some this year. So at this point, I'm like, let's just leave it where it's at, leave the 97 in there, carry forward, and because they'll use it this year, we won't have to do some other adjustment. So I think if we do those two adjustments, basically reduce the capital reserves to reflect the bond payoff, and reduce the landscaping for their 24 carryover, we'll then have all of our reserves straightened out. And I know it'll probably take a couple months for that to show.
I should be able to have anybody in Permi's financials.
All right. So what do we move to support Ed's recommendations 1 and 2?
I would move that we reduce the capital reserves by 731,000, and we reduce
31 and 37.
37,000.
So I get
731,000.
So 731.
Yeah,
That's different.
rather than the 737.
Okay.
I have two things. I have that reduce the capital reserve, well, different number now, 731, and then reduce the landscape carry forward by $294,265.
Right.
And leave ponds alone.
Leave ponds
Yep.
alone.
That's exactly what I wrote. Leave ponds alone.
Include Gino. Okay, so that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second?
I have a
Oh,
question.
yes.
Given that I can't talk to anybody except for in this forum, it's really important for me to understand what was the rationale for paying off the bond?
In 2013, a bond was refinanced. There was original 2003 bond that basically paid for the construction of most of the stuff in Old Pelican. All the ponds, the roads, the monuments, the fire station, and everything. In 2013, when they basically refinanced what was left on that and assessed Old Pelican, that's everybody off, all the developments off of Pelican Boulevard for that bond. And they've been paying an additional assessment on it since 2013. As New Pelican got built, they weren't paying anything for those assets. And we couldn't pay the bond off until 2023. There was a restriction that for the first 10 years you couldn't pay it off. So in 2024 we looked at it and it was down to about $1 million. So we said, hey, everybody in Pelican, New Pelican, we drive on Pelican Boulevard. We drive by the monuments, we use all those roadways. So we should just use the capital reserves to pay off that bond, and it unencumbers all those assets. Because until, it's like nothing can really be done with a lot of those assets. There was an interest to even sell the parcels up at Tree Line and Colonial. They couldn't do anything because they were encumbered by the bond. It's just, so.
It frees up opportunity.
Allows future opportunities to occur.
That's fine. Yeah, very good summary of that too. Okay, so we have a motion as stated, and we had a second by Marty.
Correct.
Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous approval.
Don't fall out of your chair.
I wasn't going to say anything. Okay.
I would like to mention, not only am I, again, grateful for this opportunity, but I would like to consider how to increase the communications of what PPAC does and all the subcommittees do, and really set the record straight between PPAC, GSCDD, and everything. And I had a brief conversation with Faye Formoso, who said, yeah, we're happy to use our vehicle for getting information out. But that was a pretty general comment. I need wanted to delve a little bit further into how we would be able to get some really current information out to our community. They need to understand that we're not the bad guys. We are looking out for the assets in the community, and by keeping them in shape and improving them, it improves the quality of life, it improves the value of our homes. We are not the bad guys. So I'll keep you informed, and I'd like to know, how would you like me to present to you, or should I just put together a plan, program?
I would like a communication plan that you could tag off on a few things that you think would be beneficial. Also maybe include in there that once the taxation notifications go out, it might be beneficial to have a
Town
hall or something like that where we can
I'd
talk.
be happy to come over and talk.
Thank you,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
What do you think about our?
We did have there was an agreement at one time that I think Gateway has like a half-page form that doesn't change, but at one point, that was going to be where every month, one of the subcommittees would have,
Yeah.
tell them
Good
what's
place.
going on.
Yeah,
So
place for it.
every 3 months, each of the different committees would have
Yeah.
something, and that, that might be a good way, and maybe tag with the communications.
They stopped
committee.
printing it, I stopped reading it.
Well, it's still
Don't
there
read it
online,
anymore.
it's electronic, but that page still exists, and we should take advantage of it. We should take advantage of the website better. We have some opportunities for sure.
You know, it's just like with the recycling task force, just to say, I summarize that task force meeting every time and give it to Adriana, and it goes out. I'm assuming what Faye is saying, that if we wrote a summary of PPAC meetings, decisions made, things are going on, and you gave them through agreement with PPCA and Adriana to push it out, she'll put the appropriate gateway notice. I don't think that would be a problem.
Right, well, it's more than just what happens at our meetings, it's just a clearer understanding. And we need volunteers, and we need people to understand the whole concept.
I've passed out our flyers and our
Yeah,
refrigerator magnets.
the flyers are full of
We have
information.
lots, so please
Yeah.
don't take my
There's
word. We
there's a
still have
whole
lots.
box of those flyers sitting over there in the office.
Okay. Anything else? We will have.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
You guys want to meet Paul? Have you met Paul? He's our new public works director. I told him I would just have him pop in and at least say hi.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're not even, I met him at
I think he's still online.
Yeah. And then,
the Board of Supervisors meeting.
what about for the June meeting? I am
I'm
going
not
to be.
here.
Okay, and you're not going to
And
be
I have no
calling in.
access.
So who's not going to be here?
I'm not, and I have no access.
All right.
What's the date?
And I will be calling in, but not
June
in.
something. 12th?
Yeah, Kara, take it.
Second Thursday, 12th?
12th, it is the 12th. I will be here back from vacation, so.
You'll be rested.
I will be here, is it not going to be in person?
No,
it
we
has
would
to be
have
in
to have
person.
4 in person.
Yep.
So we have 3, and John, and I
think
don't
I'll
know.
be
what-
here.
And we don't know about Alan.
We don't know about Alan.
So who's not going to be here?
Me.
I don't know.
Peggy,
I'm going to
Tom,
be out online.
John maybe.
But Peggy's calling in.
Yeah, I'm calling in.
But that doesn't count for quorum.
It does not.
No, it has to be a physical forum.
Yeah.
So Marty, you'll be
I
here.
don't think I'll be here.
I will be
I'll
here.
on
Alright.
Picking up the grandkids.
There you go. So that's John. So Alan's gonna be the critical
So
one.
you're not going to be here?
I don't think I'll be here. I think I think I can call in, but not present.
So we need to find out from
Yeah.
Alan.
I won't be here in June, if that matters.
Oh, you won't be here?
Will not be
June?
here.
So
in
you guys
June.
won't have.
Okay, well then that's
you won't
it.
have quorum.
Oh,
I'm here in July, I won't be here. I'm here
July,
in June.
June you will be.
I'm not going to be here for sure in July.
Okay, so June. So it just depends on Alan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then again, I'm out until early September, so.
So June, July, August.
I'm just out for June.
Okay, yeah, well, can you have Georgia reach out to
Yep.
Alan? Thank you. Hi, Paul. How are
Yes.
you?
Good afternoon, committee members. For the record, my name is Paul Flores. I have the honor of serving as your new Public Works Director for Gateway Services CDD. What I bring to the table is about 24 years of public sector experience in capital improvements, day-to-day operations. How do we best serve our community? So I'm looking forward to working with all of you and all the residents of Gateway. Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I appreciate the opportunity and I'm looking forward, and I'm excited to be a part of the team here.
He'll be coming to the subcommittee meeting just like Daniel used to, so now you'll have Paul.
Yep, you'll be the.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Nice meeting you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, do I have a,
Make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Almost beat.
Marty made the motion.
I'll second
Tom
it.
seconded it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Let me run out of here without you.
Yeah, do not do that, I have to sign.
His first off his text, if you need to say anything else, very totally.